Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is from Canto 1, Chapter 17, The Punishment and Reward of Kali, Text 17. So I'll start with the Jayarada Madhava prayers, and then we'll continue after that. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Givadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Vallabha Girivadadhari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Sharan Bihari Radha Sharan Bihari Bihari Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Bihari Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Nitai Gora Chandra Nitai Gora Chandra Gora Hari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Vaishnava Kodaya Vaishnava Kodaya Vaishnava Kodaya Vaishnava Kodaya Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Jayam Vishnupad Paramhasa Privajikacharya Astotar Satyashishi Mother's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramhasa Privajikacharya Astotar Satyashishi Mother's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Tirudaita Gadadha Sivashari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki jai, Itai Gora Premanande, Harivo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Vishnu Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namani Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhartmani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namani Narayana Namaste Cha Naronte Vanarottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatojayam Vadirayat Nashta Prayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavatam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Text 17. Dhamma Uvacha Etapa Pandave Yanam Yuktam Atavayam Vacha Yesham Gunagane Krishno Dautya Bhagavan Krita Dharma Uvacha Etavat Pandaveyanam Yuktam Atavayam Vacha Yesham Gunagane Krishno Dautya Bhagavan Krita Dharma Uvacha Etadva Pandava Pandaveyanam Yukta Atavayam Vacha Yesham Gunagane Krishno Dautya Bhagavan Krita. Hare Krishna. Anyone who wants to try? Unmute yourself. Okay. We'll do word for word now. Dhamma Uvacha, the personality of religion said, Etat, all these, Va, by you, Pandaveyanam, of those who are in the Pandava dynasty, Yuktam, just befitting, Artha, the sufferer, Abhayam, freedom from all fears, Vacha, speeches, Yesham, those, Gunagane, by the qualifications, Krishna, even Lord Krishna, Dautya Ado, the duty of a messenger, etc. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Krita, performed. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. The personality of religion said, these words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty, captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas. Even Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, performed duties as a messenger. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The assurances and challenges made by Maharaj Pariksit are never exaggerations of his real power. The Maharaj said that even the denizens of heaven could not escape his stringent government if they were violators of religious principles. He was not falsely proud, for a devotee of the Lord is equally as powerful as the Lord, or sometimes more powerful by his grace. And any promise made by a devotee, though it may be ordinarily very difficult to fulfill, is properly executed by the grace of the Lord. The Pandavas, by their unalloyed devotional service and full surrender unto the Lord, made it possible for the Lord to become a chariot driver or sometimes their letter messenger. Such duties executed by the Lord for his devotee are always very pleasing to the Lord, because the Lord wants to render service to his unalloyed devotee, whose life has no other engagement than to serve the Lord with full love and devotion. Maharaj Pariksit, grandson of Arjuna, the celebrated friendly servitor of the Lord, was a pure devotee of the Lord like his grandfather. And therefore the Lord was always with him, even from the time when he was helplessly lying in the womb of his mother and was attacked by the blazing Brahmastra weapon of Ashwatthama. A devotee is always under the protection of the Lord, and therefore the assurance of protection by Maharaj Pariksit could never be without meaning. The personality of religion accepted this fact and thus thanked the king for his being true to his exalted position. Oma Ginati Mirandasya, Gyana Gyana Shalakaya, Chakshu Umlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Vidati Swapadantika. Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Vitapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha. Chirupa Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam. Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva. Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari. Vishabhanusute Devi Paramami Hari Priya. Panchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gorachise Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigahaya Himabhya Divacha Visundaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Rasipadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Sri Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Sri Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. Translation again. The personality of religion said, these words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty. Captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas, even Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, performed duties as a messenger. So this is being spoken by Dharma, the bull, after hearing words of consolation and from Maharaj Pariksit, and also stating, Maharaj Pariksit stating that in his kingdom, no one that is a good person or personality should suffer. This is what a good king is supposed to be about. A person that has been in the Kshatriya Varna, trained properly, would make sure that those in his or under his rule are happy, miscreants are punished, to rehabilitate them mentally into being good people before they will be accepted in the society. Sometimes if the punishment is punishment because of the seriousness of the crime, and that means the person's life has to be taken, then the king will make sure that that is done. That way, people who are in the mode of goodness, people who are kind, people who are religious, people who take the Krishna consciousness in the kingdom will never feel unsafe. As a matter of fact, those kings in their times, they made sure there was so much peace and order that one thing that doesn't happen these days was happening there easily. That is, women could actually come out or make it home out in a plane in the middle of a night without anybody attacking them. Women can sleep under a tree without somebody assaulting them. That was how much control and that the kings had, not only this control, but enforcement of the law. These days, you can't do that with Kali Yuga having progressed to the point where it's at now. Women have to be very careful. You will never, hardly ever see any single woman just walking by themselves, even on university campuses. It hardly ever happens. These days, everybody has to be very, 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 very careful because the assault is just around the corner. You don't know the person coming in the opposite direction or coming behind you, what they'll do. So in those days, when Maharaj Pariksit was the ruler, the personality of religion, Dharma was told that he didn't need to worry that if the laws were broken even by visitors from the heavenly planets, they still will be subject to punishment. And this is what Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. The assurances and challenges made by Maharaj Pariksit are never exaggerations of his real power. That is the first sentence Srila Prabhupada said. And as we go down the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that nobody that goes against the laws of the state will be going scot-free from it. Violators of religious principles would be punished. Now, Maharaj Pariksit making that kind of statement, it didn't mean that he was just bragging. He is a pure devotee of the Lord, and a pure devotee of the Lord that stands for good for the people, with good for the kingdom. Anything that they have to do in order to make sure that the people are happy will be backed by the Lord. Another example is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was a pure devotee of the Lord. His father was a demon, Hiranyakashipu. When Hiranyakashipu was told the good things that he could do, go to Vrindavan, stop this demonic activities, and devote your life to the Lord, he didn't want to do that. Not only did he not want to do that, he thought he was so powerful, he decided that his son that he loved, Prahlad Maharaj, was only 5 years old at the time. He was going to kill that child. But he saw the Lord's power. He tried several ways to kill the child, and the Lord protected the child. Prahlad Maharaj was only 5 years old. And his father was a big demon that had conquered the demigods. And for that time when he was ruling, demigods were under his control. The demigods controlled many, many things, including the weather. Therefore, things were, including the weather, according to what Hiranyakashipu wanted. Still, feeble 5-year-old Prahlad, because he was a pure devotee of the Lord, Hiranyakashipu could not kill him. Finally, Hiranyakashipu, realizing that there's great power behind the sun, he said, "Where do you get your power from?" Asking his son. And his son again made a statement that annoyed him even more. He says, "My dear father, I get the power from the same place you get your power." Hiranyakashipu did not want to hear that. Power is from someone else? No, he wanted to be number one. So anyway, When Prahlad Maharaj said, it is from Lord Vishnu, same place you get your power. Where is he? Father asked. The son replied, he's everywhere. The father says, and even in this pillar in front of me? Prahlad Maharaj said, yes. So then Hiranyakashipu took his sword and destroyed the pillar. Now, the devotee of the Lord has said the Lord is everywhere, even in the pillar. Krishna backs up his devotee. That statement was a statement that Krishna heard, Hiranyakashipu heard, and when Hiranyakashipu destroyed the pillar, the Lord came out in his ferocious half-man, half-lion form and took care of business, kills the father. So promises made by a pure devotee will be backed up by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Maharaj Pariksit was never exaggerating. The case of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj shows clearly that when the Lord's devotee makes a statement and it's for the good of the people, the Lord will back up that statement. In the Kurukshetra war, Arjuna was not the most, even though he is celebrated as Kshatriya, warrior, and was very experienced, there were some, like the teacher, Dronacharya, like Pitamaha, Bhishma, that Arjuna knew he couldn't fight them and win. And they were on the other side. Yet, when it was all said and done, by the Lord's arrangement and the power of the Lord rested in his devotee, Arjuna and the Pandavas became successful. And when the Lord was done with his pastimes, and when he left, Arjuna could not get the same power that he used. It was equally gone. So the Lord's devotee is the servant of a servant of a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Lord uses the devotee and glorifies the devotee based on what the situation is and the statements made by the devotee within that particular situation. So Dharma is telling, the Buddha is telling Maharaj Pariksit, you've spoken like typical personality belonging to the dynasty of the Pandavas. Because when the Pandavas, as far as he knows, Dharma knows, would think to make such statements. Pandavas were Kshatriyas, warriors, and administrators, good administrators. So all of that made Dharma make that particular statement. Another point that is important is because of the unalloyed devotional service, full surrender to the Lord, the Pandavas were related by the Lord so nicely. Sometimes the Lord exhibited his potency of renunciation. And the potency of renunciation means that the Lord does menial things to serve his devotee. To get to be a messenger, as he went to Hastinapur to ask for 5 villages, he went himself to be a chariot driver of Arjuna. Those are considered menial services. To wash the feet of those who came to Indraprastha for the Rajasuya sacrifice, which is a service that he took upon himself to do, wash all of them, good people, demonic people, all of them, their feet got washed by Krishna himself. His lotus hands touching their feet. This is all menial service. And menial service is how Krishna exhibits his potency of renunciation. He did that a lot for the Pandavas. As a matter of fact, in their friendship, Arjuna and Krishna made it so sweet that Arjuna, for the most part, did not even remember that he was dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the owner of all that there was. They were sitting, talking, chatting, sleeping, eating, all of that together. Great friendship. Everyone also, as we're hearing, don't think that the Lord has relationship with only those that are in the Shastra. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has a relationship with everybody. All parts and parcels. They are all parts and parcels of the Lord. And he has a relationship with everybody, including me, including you, including everyone. The difference is that we tried to be Lord of what we survey, wanted to be that way in the spiritual world, and therefore we were put in the material world to try to be Lord of what we survey. And of course, things don't go so well if you try to be Lord of what you survey when you're going up against Mother Nature, because Mother Nature is actually the one that dictates, and Mother Nature is from Krishna. It's one of Krishna's energies, external energies, separated energies. And so the Pandavas were showing by the unalloyed devotional service and full surrender to the Lord that one of them, Maharaj Pariksit, would in fact take care of business wonderfully. So a pure devotee of the Lord is always in a situation where they are protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, either directly or he would make arrangements for the protection to come. As it's Srila Prabhupada describes here, Maharaj Pariksit, when he was born, well, when he was lying in the womb of Uttara, mother, he was almost killed by the Brahmastra weapon of Ashwatam, but the Lord went into the womb and took care of business and protected that devotee child, Mother Pariksit. And now he is ready to protect all of the citizens. So the protection is always there for everybody who decides to take their life to the hands of Guru and Krishna. The devotee is always under the protection of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada is making that clear. If we keep the connection between ourselves and the Lord always there and make it priority, then the protection will also be there, because the Lord says, the extent to which that we surrender, he will in fact reward accordingly. We have to understand our position as servants of the Lord, wherever we are, material world, spiritual world, and serve the servants of the servants of the servants. And that way, protection will always be there, just like it was in the case of Maharaj Pariksit. So whatever that we lack, the Lord will provide our needs. As in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, which is called the most confidential part of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 22. Ananyas chintayantumam ye jana paripasate tesha nityabhiyuktanam yogakshenam bahamyaham. Those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, those who meditate on my transcendental form, to those people, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So the Lord says that if we worship him exclusively with devotion, exclusive means we don't worship him and then worship demigods and then worship all kinds of things all over the place. We're not resolute then. With exclusive devotion, worshiping Krishna, those who do that and do that constantly and always think of the Lord and also understand that his birth and his activities are all transcendental. Janma karma chame divyam. So, evam yoviti tatvaha. Those are the ones that he protects, and they also will get a chance to go back to Krishna Loka after they leave the physical body. So for those people, the Lord carries what they lack and preserve what they have. So we should always, 24 hours a day, be engaged in thinking about the Lord. By hearing about him, chanting his holy name, the Hare Krishna mantra, remembering the Lord, offering prayers, worshiping the deity, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, serving Guru, cultivating friendship, and then Atmanivedana, fully surrendering to the Lord. All of these will make a devotee perfect in self-realization. And then it gets to a point where the only desire that the devotee has is to achieve the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That person realizes that devotee association is primary to success in devotee life. If you want to be in a certain way, you have to be around the people who are doing the same thing you want to do. Then you can always practice that and practice the same activity confidently, because around you are people who are doing the same thing. The converse of that is when one stays away from devotee association, then Maya will try to take over. And usually Maya, with all its tricks, is successful in doing that. So we have to stay in association of devotees to be excited and to stay enthusiastic in devotional service. So the Lord will help the devotee without any difficulty. The mercy of the Lord is such that the devotee, after leaving this, never comes back to this condition of life, this material condition. That is also there, really. There are those who have been here in this ISKCON movement who have now left and they've gone back to the spiritual world. They were here to do the Lord's work under Srila Prabhupada, and they made it clear, I am back in the spiritual world to prepare the way for all of you to come back to the Lord. This is how much love that the Gurus have for us. Those who are still in these bodies here are guiding us, and those who have left are preparing the way for us to be accepted by the Lord. What do we have to do? Stay the course. Just stay the course. Keep chanting, keep hearing, doing as many of the 9 processes that we just listed of loving devotional service to the Lord, and the opportunity will be there for us to go home. So we will do all kinds of things, all kinds of activities. Yes, that will be there. But, and some of them are material. We're in the material world after all. We'll do so many things to keep the body and soul together. But with the protection of the Lord, when we leave this place, this material world, we will reach the eternal and imperishable abode by the Lord's grace. So to be free from material contamination, the pure devotee acts under the direction of a Supreme Lord or his representative, the spiritual master. He's always 24 hours a day, 100% engaged in activities under the direction of a Supreme Lord. So a devotee who is like that, the Lord is very, very kind to them. Their heart is very, very open. And in spite of all difficulties, he's eventually placed in the transcendental abode of Krishna Loka. Yes, there will be some difficulties. This is the nature of the material world. The material world is for everybody's life is full of material happiness, material distress, challenges. They come and then they go, and then they come and then they go. This is like that. Maharaj Shabbadev describes, says, don't get so attached to that. Worry too much about it. We usually connect with, emotionally, with troubles that come. We hate it. But they only come, they're temporary, and it's also the nature of the material world. It will not stay anywhere else. In the material world, once you get out of the material world, you don't have those problems anymore. Therefore, we should put our hearts into service, put our hearts into being kind to the devotees, put our hearts into being helpful to devotees, and always be alert not to offend devotees. Because when we commit Vaishnava aparad, offenses to devotees, then we will not be allowed back in the spiritual world. And this is a serious point, because one may be even chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. When they offend devotees, they will not be allowed back. First of all, when a person that's offensive cannot chant nicely, purely, they cannot chant with focus. The Lord rewards those who are submitted to him. And submitted to him means submitted to his rule of law, the codes given by the Lord. But there's also life, wonderful, blissful life in the spiritual world. How can you or anyone offend devotees and go to the spiritual world thinking that it will be allowed there with that kind of attitude? Won't they be offending devotees in the spiritual world also? If you don't get rid of that kind of attitude, you're going to put that there too. But the spiritual world is always going to be full of living entities who are in bliss. Therefore, that attitude will not be allowed there. And if we have the offensive attitude, then we ourselves won't be allowed there, because if we're allowed there, then we're going with that offensive attitude, and that is not permissible. That's why it is important to get rid of it here in the material world. Be very, very careful not to offend devotees. So that will give us an opportunity to go. So in the section of a purport by Srila Prabhupada in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 22, a devotee, Srila Prabhupada said, is always fearless because of the protection given by the Lord. And you can tell from the way Maharaj Pariksit made the statements that he made, that even those in the heavenly planets, if they are in his, on the earth, they do whatever they do here against the rules of his government, that they will also not be able to escape the laws and the punishment that comes with it. That is a statement of fearlessness. And Srila Prabhupada says the devotee of the Lord is always fearless because of the protection given by the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj was definitely not afraid of Hiranyakashipu, even though he was being punished. There were attempts being made, not just punished, but actually attempts being made to kill him. He never was fearful. He put his heart, his mind, his whole personality under the protection of the Lord, and the Lord protected him. So material existence is like a blazing fire in the forest. It can be extinguished only by the mercy of Lord Sri Krishna. And the one representing the mercy of the Lord is, in fact, the spiritual master. Therefore, a person that is in the material world, burning in these flames of material existence, should put themselves in a situation to receive the rains of mercy from the Lord through the self-realized spiritual master. It is very, very important to inquire from the spiritual master, to serve him. And when you inquire, you don't inquire in a challenging way, you inquire in a submissive way. And this seems so obvious, but in our lives here in Krishna consciousness, I have seen situations where gurus literally have to take a humble position because the devotees are acting so proud in front of them. It has happened. I've overheard people go back and forth. Guru says one thing, they say another thing, go one thing, another thing, becomes a big debate with the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is treated like that, he will point out things first, especially the person is a disciple, that this isn't going to take you far in your Krishna consciousness when you act like that. That's one. Or sometimes they will explain things calmly, but back off any kind of negativity that's being put on them. back off from that particular statement, back off from that particular exchange. But the devotee has to understand that the spiritual master is playing the role of Krishna. He is not Krishna, but he's playing the role of Krishna. He's Krishna's representative. Therefore, if we don't act nicely and respectfully and humbly in front of the spiritual master, it is assumed that we will not act nicely and humbly and respectfully in front of Krishna. And again, you can't go back to the spiritual world like that. So while we are in this wonderful, wonderful situation of getting out of the material world, preparing to get out of the material world, these are things that we have to be very careful about too, so that anything happens, we are safe because of understanding what to do and what not to do. Even in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, which is extremely important for this yuga. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Of the 10 offenses that can stop us from chanting properly, the first offense is to offend devotees, blaspheme devotees who are involved in the propagating the holy name of the Lord. And all devotees are doing that way. They're chanting. And when we chant, some people say, oh, when you go out and do Harinam, yes, and chant the holy name of the Lord, yes, that benefits everybody that hears. But we have to also understand that when we're home and we're chanting, that also benefits every living entity. Why? Because there's so many living entities around us. Some we can see, many of them we cannot see because their bodies that are in are so small that our eyes that are imperfect cannot see them. And I'm talking about germs, bacteria, and so on. Every one of them is a living entity. Every one of them has a soul. Every one of them has a super soul in them. And the soul has senses. The soul can, in fact, hear. The soul has a real senses. We are using senses that are imperfect for a period of time while we're in this physical body, but the senses of the soul are perfect. And the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is for the soul. It's a transcendental spiritual mantra. And therefore, even when we are chanting, as long as we chant out loud, not very loud, but loud enough around us, we will be able to hear the holy name ourselves. That will keep our focus better, focus on the holy name. But those that are in the immediate area too will hear the holy name and benefit from it. Those that are not in the physical bodies of a human type, they will also benefit. So when we chant, we always make sure that we chant distinctly so that we can maintain our focus and chant out so that other entities will also benefit from our chanting. And definitely if we come as a group and go out to the town and chant, and devotees, the mantra itself is so potent. When devotees go in town and do Harinam and they start chanting, you look at their face, everybody is happy. And that tends to throw people off and make people wonder, who are these people? We are suffering in this material world, but they are so happy and they're chanting in the holy name of the Lord. Devotees always, always, always make it such that non-devotees can't quite know what's going on. I'll tell one short story to end this, and that is my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj, at that time he was not a guru yet. He hadn't even come to Krishna consciousness. He was in the Boston area, Cambridge to be more specific. And it was winter, and boy, I mean, I went to school in the Boston area. Winter is not like Pennsylvania one at all. It is close to Canadian type. It is very, very, very cold. And Boston is north, and it didn't take long to get to New Hampshire, and next thing you know, you're almost at the border of Canada. So it's very cold there, and it's also coastal. Coastal meaning that the ocean is there, therefore, this like the way the sun evaporates and then dumps rain on us, the sun would evaporate and the cold weather dump a lot of snow. So you get a lot of snow and you get cold weather also. So at the Harvard University area, there's a place where we call Harvard Square. It's part of Harvard land, but it is also like downtown Cambridge. So many people go over there. Devotees were standing there in the middle of winter doing Harinam, chanting and dancing in the frigid weather that everybody just walks very fast. This is where it is in Boston. They walk, everybody tries to walk as fast as possible out of the cold weather to get into the nearest building that they can get inside. When people are going for their cars, they run to their cars to get in and close the door because not just the cold, but the wind, because it is coastal. It's next to the ocean. Therefore, it's from the ocean, the breeze just blows and then the cold weather. So then it just gives even feeling of colder temperature. But they were there chanting the holy name of the Lord and happy. And so I said, either these people are on some sort of psychedelic drugs or that they have something that is very, very powerful. Well, he found out later on it was the second one. They have something that's very, very, very powerful. So the devotees of the Lord can do all kinds of wonderful things because they want to spread the holy name and save everybody. So we are doing that kind of work for service to humankind. And Maharaj Pariksit, at his time, he was actually making sure that everybody was protected. So even now that we don't have leaders that are good, leaders that are shooters, in fact, demonic, still the holy name will, in fact, make people, it will convert people's hearts, it will connect some who are ready for Krishna consciousness to come and join the movement and be able to take the steps towards going back to Godhead. And as we chant, all living entities, human and non-human alike, bodied entities, will also benefit from the power of the chanting. So, yes, Maharaj Pariksit was going to protect his kingdom, the people in his kingdom, but let's also elevate the people around us by the holy name. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is the end now. And if any devotee wants to make some comments or ask questions, they can do so at this time. Hare Krishna.
Actually, I joined the last half of the class, so I apologize for joining late. I had to be on another class this morning. But when you spoke about offenses, I think I remember reading a quote, and I think it's Bhakti Swami. I really don't quite remember. In the past few days ago, there was a very nice quote by a guru. Somehow saying Bhakti Swami, but I may be wrong. Where the quote said that if one is envious, that character is not found in Goloka Vrindavan. Therefore, one cannot enter into the spiritual world if they have envy, which comes from anger. So Maharaj was saying how important it is that we really have to shed that envy and anger, because that is not what we see in Goloka Vrindavan. Therefore, we have to work on ourselves to remove that. So I wanted to share that point. Yeah.
Absolutely. We were envious of Krishna. Krishna had all the marbles. Krishna is the supreme controller. And us wanting to be at his position, we became envious of the Lord and wanted his position. So then we were put in the material world to try to be boss, Lord of all will control. Now, we can't be envious of anyone. Why? Because everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. So if there's anything that a person has and we are envious of that person for what they possess, whatever they possess, material or some quality, we're envious. The person being part and parcel of Krishna, that's saying to the transcendental system that we haven't gotten over envy. if we're going to be envious of any living entity who has far less, far less than what Krishna has, and we're going to be envious of that person, it's clear indication that if we're ever allowed to the spiritual world, we will be envious of Krishna again, without a doubt. Because whatever we're envious of from any other person, that person has far less than what Krishna has. Therefore, we are not, we have to be careful to get away from this whole bad attitude of envy. Otherwise, we cannot go back to the spiritual world. That means the problem that got us in the material world is still there. And if it's still there, envy, then how can we go back only to be envious again of Krishna? So that won't work. So yes, that's a very important point, and thank you for bringing it up to share. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I don't know if other devotees have a question. If you do, please do raise your hand. You can just straight jump right in. But I'm just reading this purport, and the third line, Srila Prabhupada was mentioning how Maharaj Pariksit was not falsely proud. Can you explain that term, falsely proud?
He was not falsely proud, and that's an important point because this purport, actually the sentences before that was a repetition of the text before this text, where Maharaj Pariksit told the Dharma, personification of Dharma in the bull form, that even the denizens of heaven, they can't escape a strict government, the stringent government, if they violate the religious principles. Of course, the denizens in heaven, they are in heaven, and of course they are under the control of leaders there, demigods, but they travel different places. If they came to this place and they acted in violation of the laws here, Maharaj Pariksit said he would deal with them, regardless of the fact that they are from heaven, that they should know better. He still will deal with them. And so that seems like a big statement. Well, he is in fact the emperor of the earth, and we're talking about heavenly planets here, and he's still saying that his power, even for denizens of heaven, if they violate his rules, that he will still punish them, that he can and will. That like is saying, whoa, but you're on the earth, and heavenly planet is so much higher. So it's like you're being proud. And the Prabhupada says, no, he's not being falsely proud. Why? Because the devotee of the Lord is equally as powerful as the Lord, or sometimes even more powerful by his grace. And any promise made by a devotee, it may be ordinarily difficult to fulfill, very difficult to fulfill, but that will be executed by the grace of the Lord. And so that's the reason Srila Prabhupada gives. Whatever the pure devotee of the Lord desires for the welfare of that person or the welfare of the kingdom, the Lord will make sure that it happens. And so when the pure devotee makes those kind of statements, they'll be backed up. They'll be backed up by the Lord himself. Therefore, the person, pure devotee, cannot be falsely proud in that way. They'll be backed up by the Lord. Any promise made. We were talking earlier about Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj. When Hiranyakashipu finally asked, where was Vishnu? And Prahlad Maharaj said, everywhere. And Hiranyakashipu said, even in this pillar. And Prahlad Maharaj said, yes. Now, Prahlad Maharaj is not Krishna, but he still said, yes. And his father took a sword and destroyed the pillar. The Lord came out as Sringadev and half. So whatever the pure devotee says, the Lord will back it up. Therefore, the statements made by Maharaj Pariksit, he's saying, there will be law and order in my kingdom. Wherever you're from, you come, you obey the laws here. Otherwise, you're liable to be punished. And that's wherever you're from, you're liable to be punished. You don't have to worry about the pure devotees because they don't break laws. But anyone that comes and does anything that is negative, the king will take care of that particular personality. And that was the statement he was making. And the Lord will make sure it happens. Doesn't matter how strong that person is. That's why we gave the example of Hiranyakashipu, because he was very strong and he had conquered the demigods, but still he could not even kill his own feeble 5-year-old son. So the Lord always protects the devotee and backs up the devotee's statement as long as the devotee is performing unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Good points.
Right.
I'm reading this purport and it's really, really powerful.
Very.
Very, very. I mean, each and every line, each and every sentence is so depth that we have to repeat, we have to read it and read it and read it again to really get a good grasp of it. It's really, really powerful.
The
Pretty
Lord
good.
has loving relationship with his devotees, and therefore he will not make their statements go in vain, and he will also give them, even if it has to be physical protection, he'll give them that. Maharaj Pariksit was protected by from the Brahmastra when he was lying in the womb of his mother. Another point about the Lord, which is in the purport here. Hare Krishna. So what should we do? We should try to aspire to be a pure devotee of the Lord. Pure devotion is not for some people, and there's other people say, well, I can never be a pure devotee. No, there's room for improvement, and if you work, serve the Lord, serve the devotees, serve the Guru from the bottom of your heart, you are slowly inching towards purity. If we take the spiritual master's instructions very seriously, very, very seriously, we are approaching purity. If we grab onto the association of more experienced devotees, while we are in this royal path, we will in fact go to slowly get to the point of pure devotion. And of course, chanting with greater focus will also get us there. So we should aspire by taking this, to be a pure devotee, by taking the spiritual master's instructions very seriously, and make sure we associate with experienced devotees who are doing what should be done properly, and then keep chanting with greater focus. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, very, very good point. We thank all the devotees. If there's no questions and comments, we thank all the devotees for joining us, and we really hope that each one of us has really read this purport. It's really, really deep, and really take at least one takeaway from this amazing point. And we look forward to seeing you online tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning we will have Srila Prabhupada's class on. So we invite all of you to please join us tomorrow morning.
I'm here, the nectar.
Yes, absolute pure nectar, pure nectar. Until then, we wish you all a wonderful day. Vancha kalpabhyascha, kripa sindhaveva patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a wonderful day, devotees. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Jai Gaur Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna. Have a good
Hare
day.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.